YouTubers? This is Joe Bravo and Mo Bravo's Knife Reviews. Today I want to discuss actions, and if more than actions, thwack. What does it sound like when a knife with assisted opening deploys? And, how do I define what I enjoy in a knife opening versus what somebody else does? And I want to just give you my opinions on where I come up with my personal preference for how I like a knife to open. And I'm going to tell you where it stems from. This knife right here is the ZT 350 or 0350. And it is one of my favorite hard-used assisted opening knives. In fact, it's one of the first assisted opening knives that I had gotten. But I actually have the first assisted opening knife that I ever got. This is a Kershaw Speed Bump. Now, Kershaw and Zero Tolerance are the same company. They're both made out in Oregon. This is a U.S.-made Kershaw Speed Safe and a U.S.-made ZT 0350, and both of these knives are absolutely killer in action, and it's mainly because of the torsion bar that is inside the action mechanism that puts the blade under pressure, and when it's released, that torsion bar pushes the blade open, and voila. The knife that I just brought into the frame is my Kershaw Leak. Again, another USA-made speed safe with the assisted opening. And, this thing is so reminiscent of how fast the Mini Goblin from Koenig deploys. I mean, it is a rocket, and because it's under pressure, it thwacks. I mean, I know that there's no better way for me to say that, but it really, really does thwack. And this one's pretty cool too. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Speed Bump. Your lock bar engagement is actually up here in the thumb area of your blade. I mean, wonky as hell. G10 minor, but it's hysterical because that is your disengagement of the lock bar. And this is actually a Ken Onion design. I mean, look at that. I mean, just for days with that recurve, it is hysterical. Look at, I'm looking for the liner. It's not there, Joe. It's up here. God forbid you're a lefty. I mean, I guess you could do it, but yep, ambidextrous. Look at that. Don't cut yourself, Joe, especially on camera. But the moral of this story is thwack. And I used to think this one was a rocket, and it's so funny because the first time you get one of these ZTs, I mean, just listen to that. There is, force, inch pounds. I mean, just rocketing out. And listen to that sound. That's the sound that I love. Not a tink, not a hollow. My haptic was a little tinny, and I did not care for it at all. I know it's a liner lock. I know if I went to a different Spectre than the one I'm going to show you now is a V3 with a frame lock, and that would sound different from my V4 that I have. But just listen. I mean, this is what defines to me what a knife opening should sound like. And, if you want to get a little bit bigger, you can go to the original ZT0301 and another Ken Onion design. It's funny, I got 4 Ken Onion designs. Yep, look at that. Kershaw, also Ken Onion design on my Leak. But these ZTs are just out of control. And you say, Joe, why would I want a flipper that doesn't have assisted opening? And I'll tell you, this is under pressure. And some people like that, some people don't like that. It's really a personal preference. And it's also based on your municipality. There are some police stations or, boroughs that say that is a spring-assisted knife. Kershaw combats that by saying it's not a spring, it's a torsion bar. But depending on the police officer you happen to see that day, you could have, one outcome that is different from the other. So those are the assisted opening knives. And, I have a buddy of mine who knows I really enjoy Shiro. I really enjoy Koenig. And I recently acquired the Spectre. So what's up, Jay? What Jay Shot and what Jay Sharp out on Instagram. Follow him. What Jay Slice. I'll put it in the description. But you'll see him. He takes great photos, and he's a very good confidant of mine. We talk all the time about knives, doing deals, and just, what does a knife do to speak to you? So you saw where I came from and where my original reference is on how a knife opens and, how a knife closes. And I'm telling you, the world was open to me when somebody said, hey, have you ever heard of a drop shut knife? And you're like, what do you mean a drop shut? All my knives, I have to apply pressure in order to get them to fall. Now, I've had axis locks, I've had compression locks. You do need to have engagement. And the Spyderco PM2 that everybody knows I love certainly has a compression lock that opens and closes, no problem. And it is drop shutty. But when somebody told me about, a HOLT, a Koenig, and a Shiro drop shutting, I really didn't know what to expect. And I'm telling you right now, I am floored with what is able to happen when a knife deploys. Now, this is not a HOLT, a Shiro, or a Koenig. This is a Vox made or designed Katla from Viper. And this is one of my favorite, I guess you could say, budget flipper knives. Bowler M390, micarta with a flipper tab. Also has thumb stub deployment if you so wish to. And it drop shuts. A little bit of engagement. But, for $150, $175, you can get yourself a nice drop shut knife that you could be more than happy with. And now I'm going to show you one of my favorite knives. This is not a flipper tab, but it certainly is drop shutty. And this is the Brown Cortex with the IBL or the bolster lock mechanism. I mean, you could play the game of, can you get your thumb out fast enough? Because it just wants to guillotine you. And there's no weight to that blade. This is on ceramic bearings, and it just flies. But what I really want to discuss is Shiro, HOLT, and Koenig, because everybody knows these are the staples that are out there right now. When you say, oh, how good's the action? How does it compare to this brand or that brand? And these are the ones that are typically getting mentioned. So this is a Gen 2 Koenig that I really, really like. It's got great action. If you could look at this flipper tab, it is a little bit more aggressive than the Gen 4s. They made a modification to the Gen 3 and the Gen 4, and it's a little bit more upswept, and it's a little easier on your finger. But the moral of the story is thwack. And I don't know if everybody saw that. My hand was all over that lock bar, which is why it didn't engage, which is why it hurts my finger. And that is a me problem. That is not a knife problem, but I mean, look at that thing deploy. Great detent. I mean, it is fantastic. But, how does that compare to the more modern era? And you look at this Shiro. I mean, liners. Why? Because I love liners. You can hold it as much as you want. I mean, look at that. You could just deploy the hell out of it. I mean, it is a rocket ship. It is a thwack. It's 95 millimeters of blade just ripping at you. You want to laugh? I've got another F3NS Shiro liner, and it's the same. No problem at all. I mean, just look at that thing. The camera can barely pick it up. It is deploying so fast. And, something I didn't mention. Drop shutty. Drop shutty. I mean, it is awesome. It probably has a lot to do with the blade stock. Look, I cut myself. That's from hitting that flipper tab. So I'm going to have to sterilize these before I put them away. I got the rubbing alcohol here. I'll be fine. Just so everybody knows, the blade didn't cut me. It is 19 degrees out in New Jersey, so I'm pretty sure it was a little bit of dry skin and a little bit of that freaking pointy blade on the top of the flipper tab of the old Gen 2s, which is probably why they made that little modification. So I'm just going to clean myself up real quick. I would pause it, but I do not have a I got myself good editing tool, And I just want to deploy that HOLT a couple times so that everybody can see how that regards in comparison. So here you, oh yeah, I mean drop shutty. Who deploys with their middle finger? Not me. You know, and I'll tell you, if the HOLTs had a blade stock that was the same size and weight, I mean, it is on the length, but look at the girth on that thing. You know, you say, I might not bottom out, but I'll scrape the sides. Well, that Shiro's going to scrape every side up. I mean, it is just thick. But, you know, and that's the difference. They're two different knives, two different style blades, two different weights. So it's always hard to compare two different knives, you know, as far as action, because so many things take into consideration. You know, and again, this is one of the snappiest knives that I have, and it is a blade stock that is terribly, terribly smaller than the HOLT. And you know what? Look at that. It's not that much, but you can see towards the edge how thick that HOLT is. You know, I mean, so how do you measure? And I'll tell you, this HOLT's fantastic. It really is. It drops shut like you don't have to do anything. It's got a mirror edge where I could say hi, hello. I mean, it's just perfect. But, you know, I'm doing the video, so my buddy Jay wants to hear what I think of the Spectre versus the Shiro. And, you know, what do you say? This knife cost me over $1,000. This one was under $1,000. This one could probably cut just about the same as this knife. Do I think that the Shiro, with its weight, gives me a more gratifying feeling as it snaps out? Yes, but I really think that that stems because of the ZTs. And I don't think that is a detriment to how good the HOLT is, because that HOLT rockets just as fast as the Shiro does. The only problem is the lack of weight in the blade stock doesn't give me that thwack that the Shiro does. You know, alternatively, if I had a scale, you know the Spectre is going to weigh less than the liner with carbon fiber on the F3NS. And if I could tell you one of the major knocks about the F3NS is it's a little chunky in the pocket. You know, we all say they should make an F3NS with, you know, no carbon fiber scales, just all liner. I mean, it would be fantastic. You know, we dubbed it what, the F3NS Nude, or I know they make the F3NS or NL for new look or inlay. You know, so I'd like to give one of those a shot and see if that's any better, a thinner profile. You know, what's funny though, you know, with my hands, this is fantastic. This fits in my hand perfect. It really does. It is absolutely perfect. Ooh, I'm gonna have to clean that out. But you know, in the pocket, it's thick. The Spectre, you put this in the pocket, you forget it's even there. I mean, you don't want to take it out because, you know, who wants to carry a knife that costs more than $1,300? You know, not me. But, you know, for those that do, or for those that want to, and you certainly can. There's nothing wrong with it, and I probably eventually will. You know, I'm still in the honeymoon phase with this knife, so I can't really attest to the fact that I'm never going to carry it or not going to carry it. But, you know, ultimately, I really do think that carrying the Spectre would be, you know, a better option than carrying the HOLT, which is okay. I mean, over the Shiro, you know, because they're two different knives. You know, if you went and compared the F95, then, you know, it'd be a little bit different of example over which one carries better, you know. But, you know, if you wanted to compare HOLT for what it is, HOLT only makes two knives. They make the Spectre and they make the haptic, and they don't even make the haptic or the Spectre anymore. So, you know, how do you say what knife is better or what knife is worse when they both cut? I would say, which one do I like better? And I really think, you know, maybe because it's a budget friendly, maybe it's because it's usability. The Shiro right now gets the nod. I think ultimately, if I had to say which one of these knives I could live without being in my collection, I would honestly say the Shiro. And that's because I would use it and I would carry it. And, you know, look, I've got a blue one, I've got a bronze one. Nobody's saying one color is better or worse than the other. It wouldn't matter as long as I had one of these. You know, you laugh. I had two F3Rs that were just as good as these F3NSs. I mean, granted, that marble carbon fiber is absolutely tits. The ano on it is out of control, you know. I mean, look at these two. These probably are the two top liner locks out there right now. Both in design, both in action, both in, you know, just class. You could bust these out anywhere and nobody would have a problem. You know, look at it. Don't look like this big guy where you bust this guy, you have to cut your bread, you know, at the lunch line or at McDonald's. You know, somebody would, you know, really give you a look if they saw, you know, you're working with that. But, you know, one of these two guys, no problem. You know, so that's my objective review on these two guys. You know, maybe one day if I have 2 or 3 Spectres, I could say, oh yeah, you know, I like the Spectre better. But right now, with where I'm at, I think right now, the Shiro is the one that I'm going to make sure I have in my collection when everything's said and done. But, you know, that's the journey. That's why everybody collects knives. That's why everybody has a lot of fun doing exactly what we're doing. And there's nothing wrong with it one way or the other. You know, what's the Shiro have, or what's the Holt have that the Shiro doesn't? You know, that little guy. And he's freaking awesome, you know. And Shiro's got the bear. And guess what? He's awesome too. I mean, how? How do you look at both of these knives and don't go, I want both of those knives? They are the knives that I want in my collection, and I'm very fortunate and very thankful to have them. You know, and that's really all I have to say about liner locks, action, how they compare to the torsion bar deployment of my ZTs, and where I'm making objective decision on what I think is the better knife for me, you know, versus what's the better knife for you. So please give me a shout out, leave a comment, let me know what you think your best knife is between the two. And if other people have had experience with torsion bar engagement, assisted opening knives, how do the new upper end flippers compare? And do you find yourself reaching for the assisted opening still? Or is it now, since you have seen the modern high-end flipping mechanisms without the torsion bar assisting, is that doing it for you so that that thwack is certainly giving you that satisfaction like it is for me? So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure to leave a comment. Have a great day.